Hello, InfoCamp often does videos on Africa and the corruption in Africa. For instance, South Africa recently had a scandal with a police chief, but corruption in an African country? Shocking. But anyway, now I'm going to talk about David Cameron and his economic policy. Whether or not you find it ludicrous or not, I'd like your opinion. You'll soon find out what I think of it. Basically, would you, if you're in debt, cut back so much that you couldn't afford the bus fare for you to get to work? No, you would not. So in terms of debt is a bad thing, but you may need to have some debt to be able to finance your life. Most people run a current account overdraft, all right? But we're going to talk about more complex things in economics than current account overdrafts. But would you believe that this country has a 6% 6% debt, whereas Greece has it's estimated between, on the low scale, between 12 and 27% debt, and yet there is supposed to be talk about runs on the pound and runs on the euro and all the rest of it, and that Greece is in financial anarchy. Well, this is not true. This is being done to sell papers, and I can give you an example of where a paper sold more because they put the 6% figure in red ink rather than black ink, and people bought it because they thought that red was simply a more interesting colour. You can give that example by the fact that more people read the Sun than the Times. Now, it is actually harder to write for the Sun than the Times because you have to simplify things down. Not that Sun readers are not very good at understanding things; they are very good at understanding things. Now, economic lessons for David Cameron would be: first, there is good debt and there is bad debt. Bad debt is debt that you cannot afford to pay back in the long run. When things are the long run in economic terms is when there are variables that are not known, and so we're always in the long run, or in terms of the short run, when all things are known and things are not always ever known. So in terms of what Keynesian economics said, we were never in the long run or the short run, we were always somewhere in between. And that would be in tune with the scientific method that says that we are always in some form of error. Now, the problem with David Cameron's cuts is that he cannot finance them, the fact that he's cutting, because by cutting he's actually shortening his term of office, because he will not be able to stimulate the economy and get a multiplier effect by introducing investment into the economy. That can be foreign direct investment from other countries, or it can be from taxpayers' money that's been put in. So he's actually, in terms, shortening the length of the cuts, but he's deepening them so that he will not actually be able to pay back the debt, which was the point of the cuts in the first place. So, if you think Tories are morons, you would be correct, because they are. They have no understanding of economics at all. We are supposed to have a social market economy, or a social market economy that's somewhere between America and Europe. And there's some idea that America is some kind of robber baron capitalist economy, and Europe is a social market completely perfect. Europe is not completely perfect, but it's more towards getting towards perfection than, say, the robber baron capitalist market that America was in the 1920s. But America today is more like a social market than it has been before, probably since the 1970s and 1960s. Now, we all remember what happened in the 1970s when America created a bubble through its Federal Reserve System of introducing too much money supply, and this was later carried on from Volk onto Greenspan and then Bernanke So we have the same situation today. Yeah, America has 155% debt, and yet no one's talking about a run on the dollar, are they? But speculators, some of whom are based in America, are trying to bring down Greece and the euro. Why is that? Because perhaps people want to sell more papers. I don't know. That's the honest answer. But the problem is that those people will bring down Europe, America, and Britain, and the only people who will benefit from it are the Chinese, Russians, and Indians. Now, what I would like to see is the Atlantic as our sea. That is a free trade between the European Union, Great Britain, and the United States in an alliance with equal partnership between the European Union, America, Great Britain, with South America and Japan, Korea, and the ASEAN countries. That's the Southeast Asian economic development countries. Now, David Cameron should learn the difference between good debt and bad debt. Good debt is debt that you can afford to pay at some later time. You would not try and pay off all your mortgage at one time, otherwise you would not be able to afford to live in the house in which you're trying to buy. Simply, there is limits to what is acceptable in the standard of living, and so therefore is David Cameron just simply trying to cut debt and run, as in cut and run, like in Afghanistan? Possibly. Do we really want to win in Afghanistan? When you freeze pay and make defence cuts of 20%, then perhaps not.